Alright, so this is just going to be a little kind of showcase of the map changes and stuff. Don't worry about this over here of just like kind of dissecting models and figuring out how their armatures work and all that stuff so that then I can create my own models and stuff for weapons. That's the perk bottle weapon that you get whenever you get a perk. So, yeah, that's just kind of. I have that open because I'm looking into um, making my own custom, um, weapon that I'm gonna need for my map. That's gonna require. I'm just gonna reuse the animation from the perk bottle for it. So, um, you know, uh, a little asset flipping. But anyway, um, well, at least in terms of the animation, because you could I could target the same animation to do what I need it to, for what I want to do. So, and that would work just fine. So anyway, yeah, we'll go ahead and open this up and run it, and we'll take a look inside and see the changes. Now, it's still a work in progress. I'm still far off from like a public release. Um, but yeah, there's some things that need fixed code wise and like just, you know, decorations, modeling, stuff like that. But if we take a look here, we got, I gotta fix stuff like collision. This got collision. This one has collision. But for some reason, all this other stuff doesn't, and there's no way that I found to fix it. I've even tried making edits in Ape and stuff to, like, try and add the model as a, what do you call it, a collision map or whatever, and that didn't work. I've tried, a bunch of different things, and I don't want to use clips because, yeah, I'm actually coding a prop system and I need to be able to move the objects, and having to deal with moving the object and a clip and all that shit on top of all the other bullshit that's gonna go into that procedural system. I really don't want to be doing that. So, because then I'd have to have a different size clip for each object, so this would need its own clip. The chair would need its own clip. This chair's a different height, so it would need its own clip. That kind of thing, etc., etc. Excedrin for your headaches, whatnot. Um, but yeah, and this chair, this one's a different height. This one's gonna need a different one. You know, they're not all the same size. This table's a different size. Um, that kind of thing. These tables, they don't have clips. You know, these could be clipped though because I don't think I'm gonna ever be moving these. This is kind of a static room, but there's a lot of objects I do want procedural, and I just fucking died, of course, because too busy talking instead of paying attention. Okay, just go back in and start over. Anyway, I don't really care. Like, this is meant to showcase stuff, and I need to learn how to use God mode again. I know you could fucking use God mode in here, but for some dumb reason, when you type in God, it doesn't fucking work. So, I don't know. I've given up on using God mode. Like, I don't really care about it anyway. It's not like I like cheating anyway. Um, if I want to cheat, I'll just write my own script to do that for me. And then I don't gotta worry about it. Yeah, see, that's one of my other problems with the procedural layout thing. So we'll go ahead and restart. And for a split second during the restart, you'll see the objects move. But yeah, now you'll see that there are different locations. And if we do it again, they'll shift again. Now, there's not a lot of different locations for these right now because it's still in testing. But yeah, see, now we got a floating object again because I don't have anything checking to see if there's an object there that's allows it to be set there. So yeah, there's definitely some checks that need to be done that aren't being done. You know, it's early prototype version, and you know, like I said, I'm gonna be changing out models, making my own anyway with collision and shit. You know, this one here though, I like that this has collision, but for some reason, none of the rest of this shit does, and I don't understand why. I would think that if you're gonna make models, you're gonna want them to all have collision maps. That way, then in case you're using them in a playable area, you already have collision data for them. You don't have to clip every fucking thing. You know, but then again, though, they didn't really exactly intend for you to make procedurally generated, like, layouts and shit. So, you know, I guess I gotta figure all that shit out on my own. Which I am. I've already got the system up and running. You know, the primitive version of it, you know. I'm also making my own door system. That's why this door is here, but this door doesn't do anything right now. Yeah. So onto the layout. You know, I kind of bullshitted off enough. So onto the layout. It's not finalized. There's probably going to be some more shit added. Like, I think I'm going to have a room here. Probably like a boiler type room, electric type room. There's patient rooms. This is a psych hospital after all. That's why it's called psychological warfare. That's the staff entrance to the kitchen. Then we're going to have another room here. Okay. So there'll be a room there and one on that side. You know, I gotta do a lot of decorating, making it look prettier, all that stuff. And we're in the rubber room. There's 8 of these. I gotta add some code to make sure that 2 people don't end up in the same rubber room, but that's not gonna be that hard. So yeah, we'll fix that. That should be easy to fix. But yeah, see, there's 4 rubber rooms there. There's the other 4 over here. They're all the exact same size. And I'm thinking about adding on down here because, you know, there's some stuff that we need. Like, we need a laundry room. One of these is going to be the showers, you know, the bathroom thing. I don't know. This might be an experimentation room, or these might just be 2 bathrooms. I might do 2 bathrooms. You know, men's and women's and all that shit. Sorry, there is no it bathroom. You're on your own for that one. You know, games are meant to be fun, not to be politically correct anyway. But yeah, there's none of that. So yeah, I might make another floor that has like a laundry room, laundry chute that leads down to the laundry room and shit like that. Maybe I'll make that something fun, you know. But yeah, we'll probably gonna make some way to lead downstairs. So I'll probably make like the entryway over here because back where we started is the day room. There is no like entry exit over there or anything to the outside. Because you know you don't want your patients escaping. There is going to be more stuff going on door-wise here. You know, these are all going to be basically security doors and shit. These hallways here, I might just do them for the patient hallways, like put doorways in the dorms, like to the rooms and shit, so patients can't just wander along the halls. You know, I haven't quite figured everything out. I got the basic block out for the main floor, but I need a downstairs floor for laundry and blah 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 and all that shit. An elevator, staff, basically staff elevator. And I'm thinking about putting maybe an experimentation rooms down there. That way, then, you know, that's where they haul the patients off to do experiments on them and shit. Electroshock therapy and all that fun shit. Um, so, yeah, it's still pretty early on. I'm not near anything. I still gotta make custom textures. I gotta make custom models. I gotta come through and detail the map. You know, do any expansions. I'll probably do the blocking out and expanding before I start detailing and doing too much texture work. Um, because I want it to be, you know, the layout to be mostly finalized. Like, I mean, right, what I got here is final. I'm not changing any of that. But expansions to the existing geometry might change, and I don't want to start doing too much work and then, you know, um, having to redo a lot of. I kind of do basic block out, you know, all that stuff. Then I do lighting, you know, probing. Then I go through and do all the like uh, detailing and all that stuff. So that'll include like texturing, you know, doing like maybe a third of the way up the wall with a different texture, you know, for that kind of stuff. If I want to do trims along the wall or anything, I'll do that then. Um, that kind of stuff. Um, if I want to make any final changes to like modeling, like laying more models out, which I'm definitely gonna do because you know I want it to not look so bland. You know, debris and all that stuff. You know, piles of debris, trash, all that shit. You know, stuff like this. This is just kind of there for now, but that's the general idea. You're gonna see stuff strewed around the floors and all that fun stuff. You know, like a normal zombies map, piles of shit. You know, maybe literal shit because this is a hospital, and you know, it's not just any hospital. This is a psychiatric hospital, kind of like Verrucht, except for maybe a little less visually interesting right now. I mean, definitely a bit less visually interesting, but you know, when it's done, it's gonna be more overall interesting, not just visually. I don't know if it'll be more visually interesting, but like playable wise and like systems wise and all that shit, it's gonna be a lot more interesting than Verrucht. I could tell you that much. There's gonna be a lot of stuff going on in this map. You know, we got weapons roulette over here. So that's kind of fun. It's one of the kind of things, you know. This map's meant to be like fun more than like the amount of detail work I'm gonna put into it. It's more meant to be fun. So like the idea was a psychiatric facility with systems that fuck with the player. You know, basically I'm fucking abusing the fucking Black Ops 3 API like badly. You know, basically I'm abusing the systems that are in the game. You know, I'm taking them and weaponizing them against the player, which is why, you know, like, see, I go this way and then I let go of the controls. I'm just sliding along. That's part of one of the things that are meant to fuck with you. And there's the physics and all that stuff, jump height, all that shit changes. You know, it's not a constant. these change throughout play. So like you might think you got the hang of the movement, but then it starts fucking with you again. You know, and these systems ain't finally refined either. You know, there's definitely gonna be more to them. You know, I want to make them a little bit smarter and more interactive. So like, you know, right now they're kind of mostly just running off random numbers. And as you can see, like look at how fast I'm like moving when I let go of the controls. Yeah, and look at my physics. My physics are fucking insane. So there's going to be tuning that's going to be done to this so this kind of thing don't happen, because this can be pretty annoying sometimes. You get stuck up in the air for long periods of time because you got to wait to come down. This is basically moon gravity. This isn't so much the player's physics. This is more of the gravity itself. So yeah, the gravity is what's causing that changes. Like that's what I mean about this. That's why this is an indoor map, especially for testing. I do intend to have some outdoor sections, which is not going to be even accessible until I get all the tuning taken care of. Because like I don't want you to be able to moon jump out of bounds of the map, because I'd have to have, you know, bitch barriers all around the map that block you from fucking, you know, jump. You know, I'd have to have big box clips all over the fucking place that prevent you from getting out of bounds and, you know, too high up in the map and all that shit. And then there's the problem, if you do jump too high, you could, you know, my zone's pretty big, but, you know, like, you could, if your head clips outside of the zone, then it kills you instantly. So if you're outside of the zone even just slightly, the game kills you. That's Treyarch's system. I could change that so then that doesn't happen, but, you know. But why do that? I want to change. There's stuff I want to change, and I have, you know, ambitions for the project, and those are outside of the scope of that. You know, some stuff already did in World at War. I'm just gonna be porting to Black Ops 3, like my evil perk machines. I actually have. I don't have that stuff ready yet, but I do have the scripts ready to be worked on. I've got to port over my brutal mode from World at War, which I have the script ready. I just got to make it Black Ops 3 friendly. That's all. You know. And then include it and call it and set up the trigger and all that stuff, because it is toggleable. You could turn it on and off. Yeah, and that system's kind of intertwined with my evil perk system, so I mean they kind of work together. They're not really necessarily dependent on each other. You know, one can exist without the other, because I designed them that way intentionally. But yeah, you know, I'll probably do that work at the same time. So yeah, the rubber room system. Um, it kind of randomly hauls you away. I'm gonna have voice lines for all this later, but right now it's just text that pops up. Um, but yeah, the rubber room, it takes you away, puts you in the rubber room. It's a random amount of time. It's not a really large one. It's like, I think the max is like 30 seconds or a minute, maybe. I don't remember what I set it for. But it's not super long. I think it's between 30 seconds and a minute. Because gameplay wise, you know, anything longer than that feels like a really long time. You know, especially in the higher rounds, it's going to get really bad. So yeah, you're not going to want to be locked in the rubber room where you can't help your friends for a long period of time. And there's a chance that all you could get locked in a rubber room all at once. You know, that's not out the realm of possibility. That's why there's 8 of them, you know. And then I'm going to set up a system to make sure that, you know, if you're sent to a rubber room, the person who the next person who gets sent, you know, it's going to check, is somebody already in that rubber room, And then if there is somebody in there, then it's just gonna like go to the next one and check that and blah 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 down the line until it finds an empty one. Um, so yeah, I already got an idea of how I'm gonna make that system work. But yeah, for now, I just send you to a random one. So at this point, you could, if you had 2 players in here, or 4, you could potentially all end up in the same room, which, isn't exactly ideal. You know, if they're gonna lock you in a rubber room, they're probably not gonna put you in there with your buddies. So, but yeah, when you go to the rubber room, all your weapons obviously are disabled. You're not allowed to use weapons. Um, there is one problem I need to sort out with the rubber rooms, and that is that, especially in solo, if you're in the rubber room, the zombies will target you. So, say you got a bunch of fast zombies, which most of them in my map are, they'll all huddle around this door and wait for you to get out. And when you exit, it's going to put you right outside the door, which is the way I intended this to work. I intended it to work that way. But I need to make the zombies target somewhere else, like maybe like a random location or something, so that they're not huddled around the door when you get out. That way it's kind of fair. It's more about it being fair than anything. Because right now it's kind of unfair. If you get into like a higher round, or a new round, especially because early rounds you get a lot of zombies in my map. So if you get a lot of zombies, especially the runners, which there's a lot of those in here, then you have a chance to get out the rubber room and just get murdered instantly, which has happened to me numerous times during testing. So that's something I gotta polish up, is the rubber room system. So then I just gotta put something in there that tells the zombies to target, some fucking bullshit. Or maybe you'll put like script structs around the map or something and make them target those. Make them, give them locations where they can run to. Basically, kind of like trick them until you get out and then make them retarget you when you get out. So then they're not right next to, like, where you're going to get out at. Because I don't want to. Like, the idea is you're in the rubber room when you get released, you come straight out the rubber room. I don't think it should be that I put the exit somewhere ridiculously away from, like, where the door is. It makes sense. You get out, you come out the door, right? You know, um, like, is realism important? No, that's not the idea here. It's just like that's the way I want it to work. I want it to make some sense. I don't want you to just be randomly teleported to, like, I could teleport you to like a bedroom, one of the patient rooms. I could do that. I thought about that as an idea, which could alleviate that issue. Like, basically, you get placed back in your patient room, whatever. But I don't know how I feel about that yet. That's a potential possibility for later. But yeah, anyway, I don't really need to show off any more of that. We've got, you've got the basic idea of the layout and all that for now. Um, I'm working on more of it, but for now it's just, yeah, it's just bullshit. It's working. We're gonna start working on making objects here soon. Right now I'm just like kind of looking at them. That's what I was doing today, trying to figure out how the bones are structured, how all those systems work, so I know, like, what I need to make, how I need to make it, what I need to target the different things. So then maybe one of these days I'll make a video making models and showing you how to do that and showing you how to import them once I get it all sorted out for myself. But right now, I've never done that. I didn't even do that in World at War. Um, I didn't get to that part because I had too much fun doing all the scripting, which that was the part I liked the most, is scripting and making systems. You know, um, I enjoy the part of making the systems more than really any other part, like even the mapping. Don't get me wrong, I like mapping, especially when my mind's like kind of cloudy or I'm just not really like thinking at the top of my game, you know, for programming, you know, because that could be really a challenge. Like, you could be a good programmer, but you can have days where you're like, oh, fuck, man, I just, I, like, I know how this should work, but I'm not capable of getting the code across the way and getting it to function the way I want. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe other people who program could say, do you, tell me in the comments, do you feel that way ever? Do you ever have that issue? Because I definitely do. I have days where my judgment just isn't there on making scripts work right or like coming up with the best of solutions for it. So I tend to just, you know, move to something else like modeling or map development, like building the blockouts or like doing some detailing, placing objects around, stuff like that. You know, um, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's still a work in progress. Probably at least a couple months before I'll have any kind of public release. It is released on Steam Workshop to my friends only right now. Um, for whenever I have a couple friends that are interested in helping me test and stuff. And really the reason I have it on Steam Workshop at all, um, and not, I could set it to fully private so nobody could mess with it, but I do have it available for my friends because I have a couple that have the game, and I am going to need somebody to test online co op with me so I can make sure that everything that I've scripted functions properly with online co op. I already know I got some bugs to fix with split screen, but they're minor. It's mostly just HUD placement stuff and all that. It doesn't account for not having the full screen, it doesn't account for the split screen ratios. It only accounts for a full screen ratio. So yeah, there's some issues with that, but other than that, it's minor. There's an audio bug when you play the audio Easter eggs. It seems like it only happens for the first time. The first time in split screen when you're playing an audio Easter egg, the music kind of sounds like robotic. Like it's like almost like it's pitched weird, or something like the pitch shifted. Um, I think it may have something to do with player one and player two, the song being played on them, and because it's playing out the same speakers, because split screen is going to share the speakers, obviously. Um, they're slightly overlaying each other, so one starts like a split second, earlier than the other one, and they kind of overlay slightly off, you know, and that causes that robotic sound. Um, that's my guess. I don't really know for sure. There might be a way to fix that. I'm not sure. Split screen really isn't the target. It's more so most people are going to play with their buddies online anyway in co-op. They're not going to play split screen. You can, but it's probably going to be janky because the polish isn't necessary. Like, I do want to fix some of that stuff for split screen, but the target isn't split screen, and most players don't play split screen anyway. I don't know too many that play split screen, especially on PC anyway. So, you know, Is there going to be any kind of split screen fixes? Yeah, but am I going to dump a lot of time into fixing everything for split screen to work around that? No. I'm just going to fix the more like easily noticeable stuff, stuff that's most important, and just target the rest as, I'm just going to target the rest of, my scripting towards, multiple players through internet connection, and solo. So, a lot of what I'm going to be focusing on is fixing for those scenarios. Um, but yeah, that's really it. I just wanted to show a little bit of the redesign and what I've, spent pretty much all of my weekend doing. And I did patch a couple, like, code bugs. They weren't really bugs, but, like, just things that needed fixed. And, I started working on my prop management system, which is pretty cool. And once it's done, that'll be a pretty cool system because that'll mean your room layouts aren't always going to be the same. No, I'm not going to do that with every object because that's just that's. I feel like it's too unnecessary. But maybe in the future it will do that. But there's going to be specific because of how the engine works. You have to use uh, script structs to do this stuff. There's probably ways I could do without it. I probably could do it by like forcing setting origins to blah blah blah, but that's even messier. So script structs is the easier way. Give them designated locations where they can go to, and then just shuffle where the stuff goes. Throughout the map, if that makes sense. So that's how it's going to work. Um, so there's going to be designated locations, so only certain items can only show up in certain locations, you know. But I plan on making that pool a pretty decent size pool of locations. So then it gives you a feeling of uh, changing atmosphere. Somebody's been here before. Stuff got moved. Stuff like that. And this will happen on each playthrough, as you saw. With the restarts. Every time I restarted, the tables would shift, chairs would shift. They'd end up in different locations, and that's going to be true for a lot of items. Um, and like I said, I'll have to fix stuff like items that go on top of other items. That has to make sure there's an object in that location before it can place an item there, or it's just not going to use that particular node or script struct. It's going to go to one that has an object, in said location, which it just promotes some challenges because it's, territory I've never exactly messed with myself. But, that's the fun in it, is figuring that stuff out and making it all work and then seeing the end result. So, yeah, I'm going to be making a lot of models probably soon. Because, like I said, a lot of those ones in the game just, they don't have collision. So, like, and I tried everything to fix it, and I don't want to make a whole bunch of different clips that are associated with particular items, and then have to move the item and the clip, and just have like multiple arrays of different items and different. It's gonna be a fucking pain in the ass. I don't want to have to manage all that. So if I have items that already have collision data in them, that'll make this a lot easier. So I'm going to create my models with that in mind. They're all going to have the collision data baked into them, so it's ready to go. Um, the hitboxes will be a part of the model. I won't have to apply a hitbox. I won't have to try and find one that fits the size properly or the shape or any of that. It's just going to be baked into the model. Um, and when I, you know, whatnot, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've ran this video on for too long explaining stuff, but for any of those who are interested, there you go. Now you know the nitty gritty details, and you've seen the layout changes. You've seen some of the stuff I've been working on, and you know, if you're interested in it, give me a like, subscribe, whatever. You know, get excited for when I publicly release it, which probably won't be for a couple months because I am a solo developer. I don't have any other people helping me with this project, nor do I want that. This is kind of my own pet project. I like doing this stuff, you know. And working with other people tends to complicate things for me, you know, because, you know, passing files back and forth, all that bullshit. I don't want to do all that. I'd rather just focus on one thing at a time and chip away at it slowly and have something that's fun in the end, you know. And then I could start moving on to my next project. So yeah, with that out the way, I guess I'll see you next time, and hope you're excited for it as I am because it is pretty cool. All right, so see you later.